Okay, and the last part of this EQ series, look at a couple of instances where I have done a boost with the EQ. And you might have got the impression by now that boosting with the EQ shouldn't happen that often. So I'll just show you a couple of instances where I have done this. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail here as to why I've got 4 different EQs on the kick drum. I'll just talk you through what each of them's doing quickly. So I'm trying to sculpt the sound of this kick to how I'd like it. So first off, I'll start without the EQs on at all. It's just a bit too boomy for my liking, a bit too. And there's a lot more that's gone into it, but this is I'm basically sculpting this around the sub, the 808s. So I put them 3 back on. So I'm taking out the very, very lowest frequencies. So they belong to the sub, the 808. I'm sculpting this end because I've got a really big boost there. So I'm just gradually lowering that in order to balance these frequencies out. Leaving this high end alone because it's got quite a nice amount of click. Similarly, in this one, I've made some very specific cuts, just to frequencies areas that were sticking out. That's something that's come from quite a bit of experience. So I'll just show you, this middle EQ is the one that's doing the boosting. So around 138 Hz, just boosting that kick drum a little bit. I'll show you the impact of that. So you should notice it's just got a little bit of extra life with that boost. Now that's at plus 5.5 decibels. What I wouldn't want to do is boost that by about 20 decibels, because let's listen to that. So because I've gone too far there, we're actually starting to create a note in that kick drum, which isn't the intention. Just want it to have a bit more thud. Now another thing I might do here, but I don't really think it needs it in this particular instance, is boost some of these clicky frequencies. Now one way we can do this, to find out where we want to boost, is by boosting too much. So I'm looking for frequencies that are adding a click. There's quite a nice click there. I'll turn it down to a reasonable amount. I don't think it necessarily needs it, but that would add quite a nice little bit of extra click to the kick drum. And again, if we refer back to this frequency cheat sheet, we've got a kick drum. The click, that's roughly where it is, sort of in the thousands. So that's one area where you might want to do some boosting in your EQ, is on kick drums, bass, maybe even a bass guitar, trying to raise the mid frequencies to get it a bit more growly or a bit clearer. But word of warning, if you're going much above sort of 6 decibels or so, you're probably going too far. Now I mentioned this in the first video, but let's just have a look at what's called adding air. This is another really, really useful, really common and really good use of EQ boosting. So let's just take these uppers And what I'm going to use is my high shelf EQ, just to add in a bit of extra air. So let's see what happens with this. So you should notice it's just that little bit brighter with that high shelf boost. That same high shelf boost works really nicely on things like vocals, acoustic guitars, pianos if you want them quite bright, anything that's been recorded, so any sort of real instruments, and anything that really gives that your track that bit of vibrance and life. Try adding the air.